Alright, so today I want to talk about this tweet by Neil deGrasse Tyson, which I was going to do earlier, but I never did. So I'm sure most people have seen it by now. He put it out actually 8 days ago, actually, so it's quite a while. But it was after the two mass shootings in Dayton and El Paso, and it says, in the past 48 hours, the USA horrifically lost 34 people to mass shootings. On average, across 48 hours, we also lose 500 to medical errors, 300 to the flu, 250 to suicide, 200 to car accidents, and 40 to homicides via handgun. Often our emotions respond more to spectacle than to data, and it's so true. And it's mainly a media thing that if the media talked more about these kind of things, people would care about it more. And the reasons they're doing this, it's partially the emotion part of it, but it's also partially the gun control aspect of it. That if you're on the left, you want, like I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it because people need to understand it, is that if you're on the left, you want more gun control, not because more gun control reduces crime. Like I've said before, the states with constitutional carry don't have higher rates of crime. In fact, I believe 3 of the 4 states with the lowest level of crime or of murder are constitutional carry states. So that's about all the evidence you need that less gun control doesn't mean more crime. So the reason they want it is that when you're on the left, you want the government to have as much power as possible, which means a lot of times laws are going to need to be passed, at least from their perspective, that are very could be considered rather draconian and whatnot, which means they need the populace to be unarmed so those laws can be enforced. If the population is armed, especially well armed with say AR-15s, if the government passes a draconian law, whatever it need be, then let's say they pass it, they go through with it all, and they're going to arrest someone for whatever draconian law was passed. Well, the populace will show up with their AR-15s, and they'll prevent the police from arresting whoever it is. And obviously the police, they're not getting paid well enough to want to regularly get in gunfights, especially when they're probably just as outgunned, at least in those situations. So they're not going to enforce that law. And let's say they secretly arrest the person, or there's no one around. Well, they'll just go to the police station and they'll say, "Yep, we want this guy," or whatever prison he's in, and we'll want this guy out, or you guys are going to be in some trouble. And whatever, that guy obviously would be let out because, again, people aren't getting paid well enough to want to get in gunfights. So that's why, it sounds a little crazy maybe to some people, but that's the main reason. The left, they want to pass, draconian free speech laws, or anti-free speech laws. They already have in Canada and a lot of Europe. So if the populace is unarmed, in essence, the government can pass whatever laws they want because they have a monopoly on force. If the citizenry is at least moderately well armed, then the government can't do that because they'll risk dying. It's not the political elite that are doing it. It's the people that are enforcing it, or would be enforcing it, wouldn't want to enforce it, basically. So that's kind of the essence of gun control. Talking a little bit more about it. 500 people to medical errors. That is one of the biggest or least talked about issues, is that I believe it's like 80 to 100,000 people in the U.S. every year die from medical errors, and that's, again, it's more than 10 times it's more than 10 times as likely for someone to die from a medical error, which is preventable, than from a gun. And where are people's, basically, for example, we would be better off by reducing medical error deaths by 10% than if we reduce 100% of homicides from guns. 100%. So again, which number is more obtained? Obviously it's beyond obvious. Even if we reduce medical errors by 5% and homicide by 50, we would still be better off to do the 5%. So they don't really care about they always say, oh, if it's just one life. Well, that's a horrible argument, because if it's just one life, then you wouldn't care about mass shootings and what should we do to prevent mass shootings, because, again, your chances of dying in a mass shooting is so small. It's absolutely insane. Again, you're um, what about 5 times as likely to die in a car accident, but yet how many people are up in arms talking about how we need to improve safety on the roads and whatnot? And it's the reason why is very simple, is that no one's talking about car accidents. Like it's a non-issue that we drive every day. We're desensitized to it. Suicide, that's one that's predominantly men, which means people aren't going to talk about it because it's a men's issue, and it would, number one, expose the fact that sexism doesn't really affect women nearly as much as it affects men. So it's kind of a double whammy for the left, and I mean a lot of people on the right. So they're never going to talk about that. Um, like I said, car accidents. But I mean, long story short, there's kind of two aspects to this. One of them he didn't touch. Um, we're in a society nowadays that overreacts emotionally nowadays a lot, and it's getting to be a big issue because of the predominance of women in society nowadays. Not that women are horrible or anything, but it's the fact that women generally have a monopoly on teaching kids. On, I mean, the single mother thing is one of the other big things. So that's kind of the reason for the emotions part of it, or the emotionality aspect of it. And I think people really just need to wake up a little bit. Looking through the comments of this tweet, it's kind of mixed emotions. You have a lot of people that are kind of clearly awake, a lot of people that aren't. And the other problem too, I actually completely forgot to mention up to this point, is that he actually, I believe, has apologized for putting out the tweet due to obviously this mass pressure from mainly the left. And that, I think, that goes to show that I don't think he's quite as a red-pilled person as one might think. So take that for what you will. But I think that was a very bad move on his part to apologize for something that he definitely shouldn't have apologized for. But that's kind of all I wanted to talk about today. It's, again, if you're really concerned about saving lives, then you're not concerned about gun control. If you're concerned about gun control, it's because you never want it. You don't understand the actual statistics. And it's more than likely because you just want to ban guns because you're on the left, and again, you want the government to have a ton of power in society, and an armed populace it kind of closes the door to the government having a lot of power, because, like I said, if the government has too much power in society, an armed populace is going to be a lot harder for that government to enforce whatever potentially or more than likely draconian laws that would be passed at some point. So I'll leave it there. That's kind of all I wanted to talk about. If you liked that video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.